Hello and welcome to Cushy TV, the straight talking YouTube channel. Yes, what have I got for you today? I've got a couple of gentlemen that have both been on my show before. You may be getting a little bit more familiar. Jim has written a book. To my right is Mr. James Smith, also fight name Jimmy Stockings. To my left is brother Walter Smith, fight name Wally Stockings. Yes, so welcome to Cushy TV. Sit back and we're going to have the brothers on the show for the very first time because I got some other stuff that the brothers have done together and some stories, and it's all about talking, listening and seeing what you think and replying, eh? So anyway, without further ado, on the cobbles, the legendary hard man to my right, Mr. Jimmy Stockings. Welcome to the show again, hello, Jimmy. John. Welcome, mate. And of course, Wally to my left. Wally, thanks for coming in again.
Hello,
now, yes, let's give you boys a bit of an intro. I'm just going to touch on a few things because I keep saying the same things, but if I don't say the same things, somebody new might tune into the channel and say, well, I haven't heard that before. But of course, I know stories. I'm a journalist. I've got to do my own work. One story I like, Jimmy's on remand, I think, or doing a small amount of prison. And there's a bloke up Epsom Downs, I don't know his name. We necessarily don't need to know his name, but I know the story. Jimmy's about 20 or so. He's away doing a bit of porridge on a short-term remand or locked up for the weekend, something like this. Maybe Jimmy will touch on it. But some bloke says to your dad at Epsom Downs, he gets a bit confident and brash because his older son is locked up. Your dad replies, yeah, well, don't worry about Jim. He says, I've got another one here. Wally, well, of course, you're small in stature, and with lightning speed, you obliterate the bloke that was looking for a fight with Jim, and you KO him a bit lively.
Boxer's Tom was to be fair play.
Yeah.
And he was switched off at 2 minutes, and he had one run over the jump over the fucking Ralphie.
And Boxer's Tom Taylor, which I done a small bit. A fella, English Romany, tough hard man, Tom Taylor. Yeah, but he probably thought because. I've said in the previous show, when you was 18, you probably looked 12 or 13. That was fair to say, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
So you're probably in the corner, small stature, didn't look an awful lot of a problem to some man who's down a few beers. But he thought Jim was a bigger bloke in absence, bit of confidence, took away a few beers. The next minute, he's over and out.
True.
Yeah, what was it, 1978 that year?
Yeah, around there.
Yeah. So I laugh at it at home. I don't know what you think. You think, oh yeah, I'm all right here. The bigger, older one's out of the way. The little one in the corner.
Sleep, that's what he was calling.
Yeah,
he went to sleep, didn't he?
You put him to sleep.
He went to sleep.
Yeah, so tell me, you boys, you love fighting. You love fighting. You love the fight of the sport. It wasn't violence to you. It was sport. You were brought up with it, yeah? You loved the fight. Of course, boxing's violent, knuckle fighting's violent, but you actually loved it. But when you had no one to spar with, or nobody to fight, there wasn't a problem, because you two both went and sparred, and you could both, very, very tough men, you could both withstand each other's punches, and there wasn't no brotherly love, tip-tap stuff. Tell us about your sparring sessions, Jim.
Oh, well, we'd spar one another, we'd try to hurt one another. It wasn't just a spar. I'd give him back what he'd give me, but he'd try to take your head off, mate.
Would you? Didn't know any other way.
But he's trying to take your head off. There wasn't no spars of him. If he was in the ring with him, he didn't care because I was his brother.
So there was no spar. No, you couldn't ease up.
No sparring with him. He wanted to put you out, and that was it.
Early night.
He wanted an early night. What? He didn't get paid for overtime.
Nah, he didn't get paid.
No overtime.
Never paid.
He didn't have no favouritism because I was his brother.
The fitness side of it. Well, you couldn't get unfit because, as I say, you'd be sparring all the time.
Yeah.
So you were a tough, hard man, and you're bigger than Wally, but you needed to be because he could throw leather, 5 or 6 to your 2 or 3.
He could throw half a dozen to my 2, as you say, yeah.
So you had to withstand. I mean, even if one single hit on it, you have 6 on the chin, or a bit lively, and he's very accurate. So there must have been. I witnessed one bloody spar one day, but there must have been numerous occasions.
He was very special, like I say, as an amateur. He boxed for England against America, and he probably had about 180 fights, probably won about 160.
Proper record then. But I remember when I remember seeing other grown-up travellers as a little boy watch you spar from the sidelines, and they used to winch. They used to pull faces and everything. They go, fuck me, I wouldn't like to be one of them two. But you used to do it for love and sport and to keep fit. So you're never far away from a fight because
you had a couple of spars, Joe, didn't we?
we done a bit, yeah. We done a bit. As I say, I like you say, there's no sparring with Wally. He was just, he just, well, one for the right word, he's a nutcase. He just used to go for it. There's a story I like. I love this story, and I think you at home would like it. Wally being a smaller man, it's naturally that he's a faster runner. You went out doing your road work to Perrier one morning.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was a misty morning. Walt goes up ahead of you, 100 yards or so, and a couple of big burly tough men off to work stop you in your stride. You're partly out of breath because you're running, of course you are, although you're fit, you're getting your heart rate up. And they stop you and you use your wits for a change. Yeah, is that fair to say?
Yeah,
you use your wits and let your brother catch up. So he's a couple of big lumps, so you give you time to get your breath back. And then take over the story, Jimmy, and well, what happens when you come up?
I'll let Jimmy carry on, man.
I said, if I wasn't here, I said, you'd have my brother, wouldn't you? No, that's all right. Get to him, Molly. Big lump he was.
I don't mind.
Bit of a belly, but a big old lump.
Big old lump, yeah.
Anyway, Wally put 3 or 4, 5 or 6 shots together up and down his body.
He landed on the floor.
He went over, he was out.
But he's one that landed on the floor,
The
so.
one said, I don't want to know, mate. I said, no.
You would have done when he come in.
Yeah. So I hit him with a right hand and bowled him over. And then we run.
So you left the two of them on the path?
On the grass.
What time of the morning was this?
6 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, there you go. So there you
They
go.
was mist on the ground. Nowhere that they laid on the floor, you couldn't see
That
them.
was an early morning wake up.
Yeah, early morning wake up call. You see, again, the problem with Whoa, he was a bit like a silent assassin because he did look 12 or 13. How old are you this? A 20-year-old at this stage?
Around them days,
Yeah.
but I was pro then. I've been about 21, 22, wasn't I?
About 20 he was.
Yeah, but as I say, he looks 12 or 13. Trust me, that's the age he looked. He was what you call a Peter Pan character. He just didn't get any. He didn't age. So the big burly men thought they'd, have a wind up or get one over and. I wonder what they said when they went in to work. You had a rough night. Now you had a rough morning.
I don't think they went to work for a week afterwards.
But that'd be a good lesson for them. Be careful who you pick on.
Yeah. But I'll never forget that one, will I?
No, it sticks in the memory, don't it?
Yeah, so you both had a fight once on a site in Surrey, didn't you? And it turned into a gamble or side bet. It wasn't initially starting over a side bet. Some people cause you some grief. So you call your brother, and he comes down with his team. He's down in North London. You're down in Surrey. He comes down with his team, and you quickly get to work on a site in Surrey, and you do your job first. What happened there?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. First of all, he said, "Well, your brother's not turned up. You fight now, or you say you pay my money." I said, "I'll give me another 5 minutes." And no 5 minutes you pay now. They called him Tyson. That was his name, Tyson. But he was nowhere near like Tyson.
No, but he must have had a bit of a name.
He did have a bit of name. He did have a bit of name. Joe, tell the truth to your face. He pissed his hands up, and then one to the body, one to his jaw, buckled him over the fence, and there he laid.
I was quick work then?
Yes. Then in a matter of seconds.
Do you like a body shot then, Walt?
I like body shots or head shot or
Anywhere
underneath.
You see an opening?
Well, there's a lot of people who would tell you. I was so fast years ago, you could tell where the punch was going to hit you. In my days. You could tell.
All different angles and angles.
Because I'll come at you as always in my days. No, I mean, Joe.
So no preference punt. You've been left, right, jab, over the top, underneath. Yeah.
That's it, Joe.
So one to the body, one to the head, over.
And go to sleep. If I don't go to sleep, then I'm in trouble.
But this one did go to sleep. So now he owes you money, does he? Or what happens next?
They're raking the jar of money out, the paint money. But another one is I'll fight you double nine. So in a matter of seconds.
So he has to fight you double or quits? Another one?
Another one.
Yeah.
But in a matter of seconds, behind that, my brother Jim pulled out, didn't you?
Ah, right.
I jumped out and...
He said, "This man you fight?"
There's the man that wants to fight you. I You've already done your business. Where's the man who was one of somebody else was fighting, wasn't he?
Double runner.
He's there, Jim. So I went over him, made him get his coat off.
So you've already had his fight. So
I took him out of the game. He was useless. He wasn't in my league.
So you took him out of the game, and then you had a nice few bob that day.
There was regular jarraman at the pass.
Well, you've got to pay your debts, otherwise you. Especially, I mean, one thing I do know, I'm not the cleverest. I'm not Einstein, but the person you do pay is the person that just knocked you out. Can you?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just thinking logically. Somebody knocks you out, you owe money.
If you don't
If you don't pay, you get knocked out again, won't you?
Well, yeah, because
I mean, that's logical thinking. Even I know that. We're having a beer here with the boys. We're nice and relaxed. We're right on the edge of West London, North West London, Uxbridge to be precise. We're having a nice, relaxed environment. A kind landlord's just allowed us to have a nice afternoon up here and have a chat with the boys. Cheers, boys, while we're at it. Cheers. Thank you very much. Cheers. Yeah, Creamy Eastwood, Tom Creamy Eastwood, a serious fighting man.
Creamy, yeah.
He once said he sparred with you. He said, and Wally, and Creamy's a big heavyweight. And he said he sparred with Wally. He said, I knew what it was before we got to the gym. He said, my hands end up coming up here. He said, and he said it didn't become a spar, just like Jimmy said. He said it would become a war. But Tom Creamy Eastwood is a man that your brother fought. Yeah.
Yes.
Now he knows how good your brother is because he had that classic legendary fight. But just to give you some idea at home, for the viewers at home, Tom Creamy Eastwood is my first cousin, and he was a good open class heavyweight amateur boxer, and he turned professional, and he was unbeaten, and he beaten Andy Gerard twice, and Andy Gerard went full route with the great legendary Gary Mason. Andy Gerard also beat Noel Molpass. Now, Noel Molpass was a Central Area champion. In fact, I think he beat Big John Fury for the Central Area title. And we're not making comparisons, we're not making who's better than the other, because that's a silly thing to do. What we're saying is, Noel Molpass, John Fury, Andy Gerard, Andy Gerard, Jimmy, Tom Creamy Eastwood, they're all serious fighting men in that realms. Okay, they might not be Tyson Furies, that we'll admit, but these are serious fighting men. Tom Creamy Eastwood once said to me, yeah, because bear in mind, you're my cousin, yeah. He's my first cousin from my mother's side, yeah? And he once said to me, your cousin Wally Stockings is the best gypsy fighter I've ever seen in my life, pound for pound. That's what he said. Is that a nice, Creamy said to me,
That's a good compliment.
It's a nice compliment. He's the best he's ever seen, pound for pound.
For a man like him, even better of a compliment.
For a man that's been in this, beaten these fighters and been in that realm, as we just said, there's fighters in that realm. Yeah. Well, that's a nice compliment. How would you take that?
I'll take it very, very nice respect for him.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, if you're watching Creamy, Wally thanks you. We might even get you a cold beer when we see you. Well, Wally will. I'll buy the next one. I'll buy the next one. Jimmy, I'll tell you, there's a name that keeps coming up, and it fascinates people. And I knew this man. I didn't know him. I'd be wrong, but I've met him. He used to talk to my dad. He was in the scrap game, and he used to talk to my dad in a yard called Mitcham. Henry Dixie had a scrap yard, and a lot of scrap boys and traders went there.
Oh, no.
And this fella, I met him. He was a stocky, wide, receding, you might want to say, balding, blondie haired, tough looking man, but a very nice man, always chatting to my dad. My dad was a mellow person, seemed a very nice man. But he was one of the most feared men in Great Britain, apparently. And he was very, very good friends of yours, Mark Ripley.
Mark Ripley, yeah.
Yeah.
A legend, yeah. He was a funny man.
How tough of a street fighter was he?
One side of him, he was a funny man, he was a nice man, you'd have a drink with him, and he had the other side to him where he just didn't give a fuck. I see him hit a man on the door one night, and he hit the man like that. The man started spinning and ended up hitting the metal fence and went down the side of it.
Right. Oh.
He was also go to Henry Dixie's, and he ruled that scrapyard. The man was feared all over London, the man was feared. He was known in every travelling encampment in the country. His name was known. But he wasn't a bully.
He clearly had another side to him. When I see him, he was just a pleasant man, out to drink, at work. I'm not saying he was a drunken, violent man.
No.
I'm just saying I saw him in a drinking environment, chatting ever so pleasantly.
He's a lovely man. I had some times with a girl or a woman, and that's just, he was nice. People liked him, and you know.
Was it womanising that brought his death? Because his wife went in the pub and shot him dead.
That brought his death.
He did love a woman.
So it was a crime of passion. His wife obviously loved him. He loved his wife, but a bit of mistreating and whatever. And she took it all the way and shot him dead.
She obviously had enough of it, didn't she?
She was only a young man, and when he died, wasn't he? Mid-30s?
Early 30s, wasn't he?
Yeah, mid-30s. There is a report, I don't know how true it is, there's a report in Bartley Gorman's book that he had a fight with Bartley Gorman and it was called Even. But you knew him, I don't know if it's true, but it is reported. But you did know him as a ferocious fighting man, Mark Ripley. Tell you that there's a story I like, just to underline how many people out there at home would do what you did. He once hit a man in the pub, you got arrested for it.
Yeah.
You went into court. Explain what happened in court.
I went to court, me and another fella called Nicky Diamond.
Yeah.
And the judge said, are you willing to give us the name of the man who hit the landlord of the pub? I said, no. He said, well, in that case, you go to prison for him then. He sentenced you to 3 months, and I sentenced your friend to 3 months, Mr. Diamond.
Well, nice.
So you got 3 months,
So we got 3 months
for defending a friend.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. That ain't a bad friend. And Mark Ripley once said to you, Jimmy, every time we meet, we'll have a drink of champagne. Is that a true story?
Yeah. Every time we meet, he said we'll drink champagne. He was a very, very good friend.
And he refereed your fight, the famous fight with Creamy Eastwood.
He did, yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. There's some insight we got to Mark Ripley, a ferocious fighting man, a nice man. Met his death sadly at the hands of his wife and the crime of passion. But as Jimmy rightly said, then a good man, a ferocious man, and you've got to say his good friend, he openly went to prison, as you would expect from people of our background, but he openly went to prison for even only ever drunk champagne with him. So whilst it lasted, good friendship, eh?
Yeah, while it lasted, it was good.
Yeah. He was a man that you really looked up to, but he was in a different era, your uncle, my grandfather, and he was one of the top fighters, no doubt.
Man was a legend in his days, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Same thing.
But in your era, you know, within a decade or so, who was the best gypsy boxer and knuckle fighter out there? Jimmy, who do you think it was?
In my time?
Yeah, in around your era, within a decade or so, 10 year either way, you know.
10 years.
I've got to say John Franklin.
Well, say John Brayton.
I've got to say you can't oppose an old John. Old John was a daddy.
If you're saying within 10 years,
In that gap, you can't.
10 year older than me, isn't he?
Yeah. We all agree he was the governor, wasn't he?
He was the daddy.
Yeah. And what you've got to say at home, people go on about knuckle fighting, and you boys have been boxers and knuckle fighters, yeah. But what you have to realise, I think, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but we've all done a bit of the same sport.
Yeah.
And if you think carefully about it, your travellers are used to fighting knuckle fights from little boys, as was John Frankham. And if you put somebody with his skill set and heart, I don't think anybody can bridge that gap with a second-rate skill with bare knuckle, because it's worse than a glove. When if you're losing second-rate in the ring, what's going to happen on bare fist? Because in them days, what happens a lot now is there's BFK, they call it BN. There's something is bare knuckle something thing of that. I forget the name, but they have bandages and gum shields. But there are no bandages and gum shields.
In them days, there was no gum shield, mate. No gum
2 or 3 jabs, your teeth could be out. So you agree that superior fighter to your knowledge of anybody you've met was John Frankham in a knuckle fight.
Yeah.
You know, that might not include somebody pulling somebody on the floor and and gouging eyeballs out. And that was an all-in fight. You know, then you're entitled to pick up a lump of wood or a baseball bat, because if a fight wasn't fair, and anything really went, didn't it, more or less. Yeah. But at a bare stand-up, gentleman's rules.
If you're fighting a straight fight, what a straight fight means is no kicking, no headbutting, nothing like that. All right.
Yeah.
And that's a straight fight.
That's what we call the straight.
If you're going to fight all in,
It's what we call the straight. That's why we had a referee.
You don't get kicked if you go down.
That's it. You step back.
You don't kick the man. You don't fucking headbutt him.
It's a
you
fair.
don't bite him. It's a fair fight.
It's a fair way of doing it. If you think anybody at home, you knock somebody out, and you want to continue pummeling them, they're at your mercy. You might as well get a gun and shoot them, because you can kill somebody once you knock them out. So the rules of not kicking is just a fair, gentlemanly way of doing it. It doesn't make you weak. It makes you proper. It makes you have a bit of art. It's a great way of doing it. So Johnny Frankham, fisticuffs, one way or the other, was the best you'd seen. And well, he was number 5 in the world.
Yeah, he was.
And he would have been, if you had 4 different champions, then he would have no doubt been world champion, wouldn't he? Like he is today.
Definitely thought so today, wouldn't he?
You know, if you had 4 champions, if you were number 5, you'd have taken, say, Chris Finnegan, Bob Foster out. He'd have been fighting for another version of the title, wouldn't he? Well, he beat Chris Finnegan, who had one of the great fights with the great Bob Foster, didn't he? Yeah.
One of the all-time greats amongst travellers.
Oh, Les Stevens, yeah, Wooly, eh? Les Stevens, for your information at home, this is just. Let me say something, and please allow me to explain it. If this. Drinking beer. If this bottle of beer beats that bottle, and that one then suddenly beats that one, this one can go round and reverse results. We know rules can be reversed, and this fighter beats that one, and that one then should beat this one because he's beat that one. I'm model coddling a bit, but you know what form's like. But just to give you some idea, Les Stevens lost a close decision to Jimmy Young. Well, for you younger people at home, who was Jimmy Young? Jimmy Young had beaten the great, brilliant, one of the all-time greatest, hardest hitting heavyweights in the world ever, George Foreman. Les Stevens loses closely to Jimmy Young. Jimmy Young beats George Foreman. So this is the sort of quality of fighter Les Stevens was.
2 good men.
Well, these fighters are fighting Ali, the greatest heavyweights of all time. So Les Stevens is capable of being in the realms. He's allowed in the ring with George Foreman. Of course he is, because he's, you know, that's how good he was and that's how tough he was. Yeah, we're not saying he was as good as George Foreman, but he's in that category of fighters. He's at that league where he could have gone in there and he lost the points position to the great John Conte, the WBC heavyweight champion of the world, and WBA. I think he was 2 of the. Anyway, the great John Conte.
Did you spar with John Conte?
So that's how good he was. You sparred with John Conte?
Yeah, spar with John Conte.
Not bad form, is it?
Well, it ain't bad form, no.
Tough, hard man, John.
But I had a round or 2 with him, and I was quite proud of it.
Good. Yeah, well, why wouldn't you? Champion of the world.
It didn't know Jimmy was going to turn pro.
Yeah.
He was going to turn pro himself, but
so you were going to turn pro as well.
He'd like a bit of drink. A lot of young boys doing it.
What did you just say? Did you say he liked to drink?
Yeah, a lot of young boys.
Well, funny enough, I reckon you started me off with one of the things I want to mention to you, Jim.
Yeah.
Many times you've come home from a pub, absolutely, because you did have once had a nickname, the alcoholic, didn't you? I know you never drink dependable, but we did used to call you the alky because you loved to drink, didn't you?
He was alky.
We'd never get up in the morning drinking, but he used to get obliterated at the bar. He still loved to drink. Hey, look, he ain't doing too bad now, his glass is empty, look.
He would go to work.
In fact, I'm going to get a Leonard. Give us another one, Governor, please, if you don't mind.
Well, he would go to work.
There you go.
He'd get up in the morning, go to work, come back, bomb again. 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, would you?
I was never.
Oh, thank you very much, sir.
I was never.
What a place to be, look. Which ain't bad, is it?
I'd have a few pints, and I was never alcohol.
No, but it was, of course.
That was your nickname.
But this was a joke. You did love a drink.
I like to drink.
On a few occasions where it ain't gone too well in the night time, you might not quite know what would have happened. But when you put your head in a cold bucket of water the next day, many people have had a different Jimmy Stockings in front of them than the drunken one the night before, eh?
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, and they've since learned well.
Well, for instance, I had a fighter man on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And he come in the pub on a Thursday and made it clear that he wanted to fight me.
Yeah.
And I said, no problem, mate. See you Thursday. I'll see you Sunday. When I beat you, he said, I beat them two. I said, okay, mate, see you later.
That's really confident.
I just carried on drinking on to Friday, Saturday. On the Sunday, I'm in bed. My brother Wally had to come up and wake me up.
He was still terps.
He was still drunk.
So
I got up and I went down the site. There was loads of people there, loads, 500 or 600 people. I got to it,
Many people have tried their luck with you drunk, and maybe some of them ain't done too bad by your own admissions. They may have done pretty good when you're drunk, but they haven't done so clever when you've sobered up. And just to iterate, I don't know if you see the situation with Tyson Fury, yeah, he's punching Dillian White's head off. If he wants to hit him on the point of the nose, he does it. If he wants to hit him around the side of the ear, he does it. He's hitting him everywhere he wants with great accuracy. I think it's about 4 days later, he goes to Italy, gets in a drunken state, and he tries to kick a 1.5 ton car and misses it, drunk. So there's the idea. A drunk Jimmy Stockings, for all your viewers out there, and all the old opponents, trust me, a drunk Jimmy Stockings ain't a sober one. That's all I'm saying. And a few people have learned otherwise, eh? And a drunk Tyson Fury ain't a sober Tyson Fury. Let's remember that one. You've had your day as fighting men. I'm sure you would have to have a roll in the A, a rough and tumble. Of course, you would and you could. But time moves on. What do we think of modern champions? Andy Lee, he was a champion for a little while. Obviously, he's achieved great things. Andy Lee is a world champion. I haven't met him. Have you met him, Jim? He's a nice fella, apparently.
Andy Lee, no, I've never been met him.
But somebody you have met and you've been in camp with, your son Jimmy sparred with him, and I know you won lots of money. So if you're listening out here, Billy Joe Saunders, Jim might owe you a beer. I'm not saying I don't want to cause anything, but he might owe you a cold one. But you've won a few quid on Billy Joe Saunders.
Yeah, so have I.
Yeah, and so have you, Wal.
Yeah,
you could have 2 points, Billy Joe, coming
He
your
could
way.
have he could have a bottle.
You're right. What do you think as a fighter and achievements?
Billy Joe, he's one of the best fighters, not only amongst travellers, he's one of the best fighters of all time. One of the best, yeah.
Brilliant skill set, eh?
Brilliant skills, brilliant footwork, brilliant speed, brilliant hand speed. Yeah.
Just got it all, ain't he? Good chin, good heart.
Yeah.
I mean, he's finished second in the Alvarez fight, but I tell you, I thought it was a fantastic performance. And the Alvarez fight is the only time he come unstuck, and I thought he was winning the fight. He sustained a terrible injury. You can't carry on with that. But I actually had him 1 round up, and if that's your defeat in performance, whether he comes back or not, what a career, eh?
Oh, he's had a great career.
What a career, well, eh? Well, you can't.
Only ever beaten by an injury, and only ever beaten by one of the legends of all time.
Yeah, well, one of the greatest fighters of all time.
How can you beat that?
Well, you can't argue with that. Whilst we're talking about travelling fighters, Tyson Fury, you're the Gypsy King. I'm the Gypsy Journalist. You've got to come on my show one time. I ain't got the big fancy pound notes, but you've got to come on there. But whilst, if you're home listening, what do we make of the Gypsy King, Tyson Fury? Now, wait, Tyson, you like a pint. These boys have won money on you as well, right? So you too, if you meet Jimmy or Wally, they might have a couple of cold ones waiting for you. Billy Joe's going to get a bottle of Call Into Wall, a bottle of champagne, a bottle of wine. Well, I think Tyson Fury might get a bottle of St.
He'd get the same thing. Double,
Jimmy?
Oh, definitely.
You won a few quid on Tyson?
Bottle for Tyson Fury.
So you've got plenty of your drink. If you're in around the London area, Tyson, the boys owe you a drink. No, but seriously, joking aside, you've won money on him. But what a great fighter. What a skillful 6'9". What a genius.
One of the best heavyweights ever to hit the planet.
Wally, what can you say? Took everything to a whole new level, wasn't he?
Can't say more, can you? And what did Jimmy said?
Can't say no more, Tyson. We can't praise you any more than that, my brother. Yeah, so let's finish. Wally,
Yeah.
in a few words, sum up your brother Jim as a fighter.
The fire, when he was in the days of his career of boxing, the man was a legend. He put his hands down and give you the first punch before you start. What man can you get like that now these days?
So what would you call him? One hard bastard.
Well, he was a hard bastard. He was a hard nut to crack.
Hard nut to crack, right.
And there's not many who could crack him. A lot of men tried, a lot of men come their destiny.
There they go, it didn't do too good. Jimmy,
Yeah.
describe your brother Wally as a fighter.
Oh, he was, he was another Joe Fraser. Yes, that's how he'd fight. He'd go in, he'd be ducking, diving, and coming up underneath, over the top, hooking. He was a legend. He was always on the front foot. He was moving his body, and as I say, he had a load, about 180 fights. He didn't lose no more than 15, 20, and he had just a tragedy happen and fucked his career up.
But a great fighter.
But a great.
So when Tom Creamy Eastwood said that your brother Wally was the best pound for pound gypsy fighter you've seen, he won far wrong, no? Oh, there you go. Serious fighter, Wally, and an hard nut to crack. Give your punches start. Well, that's all right if you can make use of them. But if you don't, a long race to run.
Plenty of people try, but they come unstuck.
Because I suppose I don't particularly like swearing on camera too much, but I let the odd swear word out. But would it be fair to say you two as brothers, in straightness, I'm not on about people turning, because let's get this right at home. People turning up 20-handed in a gang's not a straight fight, is it?
Right.
People turning up to you and your brother's door, Jimmy and Wally, for a bare knuckle fight.
We jump out 7 days a week.
Would it be fair to say you really didn't give a fuck who you fought?
We didn't give a fuck, mate.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's up to you, Mr. Wally Stockings, Mr. Jimmy Stockings, some stories. They got some more in the locker. You keep subscribing. Give me some feedback. If you maybe want to see some more stories, I'll get these boys back in the show. You tune in, yes? You subscribe, I'll keep giving. For now, box safely.
Well, you got loads more for you. Rough cut.